What's up, Madai? Hello.
What's up, squishies?
I immediately have an important correction to make. WANO was not still ongoing when you first started. The next arc, we were on the next arc. We were just only like 6 chapters in. But what's cool is, by the time you catch up, I suspect that the arc that started when you first joined is going to be just wrapping up.
We're in the WANO. When they pulled back that curtain, I was like, wait a minute. That's amazing.
You got the instant hypes.
I wanted to do the curtain as my picture.
You did want to do the curtain as your picture. That is true. You also wanted to do a cover page, and I was like, girl, you're 2 chapters in. Read more before you commit. Everyone thought we were drawing a dragon because you've been very excited about dragon.
Dragon! Did we meet a dragon? Did I finally get my goddamn dragon? Finally.
Yeah.
I feel the most vindicated a person could ever be vindicated.
So are we giving you a gold star for saying Kaido was the Azure Dragon? Now, you thought symbolically, so we also have to give you a purple mushroom for saying that Monkey
I don't think so.
have the Azure
I said there would be a real
No. You
dragon.
have a prediction noted that you locked in that Monkey D. Dragon would have the Azure Dragon fruit. That is a thing you said, which I can confirm he does not.
I'll allow that, but that's just one of a million things. Who can keep them straight? I think what's most important is I said there would be an Azure Dragon of the East, and there is.
Yes. You know, you said Kaido specifically would be the Azure Dragon of the East, which is crazy.
Yeah.
You did that just from deduction, like when we found out the names of the emperors. I am genuinely debating if it's another Diamond Star. Do we think predicting that Kaido is the Azure Dragon of the East back in post-Ennie's lobby is diamond, or is that gold? Every chatter is saying diamond. You earn a 5th Diamond Star today by saying Kaido would be an Azure Dragon.
Now give me my mushroom too. Yeah! Did anyone else see the power and beauty of that dragon? Like, I finally got the dragon I've been waiting for. We ate a dragon. First of all,
he's kind of a bastard. So we're not going in order. We're not starting with Tama, best girl. We're starting with dragon. I love it. Let's get into this.
First of all, I got a dragon that we ate right away. And I don't like that. And then we got another dragon that we cut in half. Then we got a small pink sad dragon. Sorry, Momo. You can't even fly. Like, come on,
he figured it out. He did it by accident to get Luffy and him out of a hole.
One time. He tried his ass off. He did not succeed. He'll get it. I mean, I know he'll get it, but that is not the dragon I've been waiting for.
That is generally how stories work, is they get it eventually.
I did love the color, and I know he'll get it eventually, but I wanted a big-ass dragon. And when I figured out the idea of the 4 winds or 4 directions, and how one of them was the dragon, I was like, that better be a goddamn actual dragon. So when it was the Eastern Azure Dragon, and he came out in glory, how big did you say it was?
Okay, so you'll see mixed reports on this, because there is a location that people have scaled him against that's later in Wano. And people say, oh, there's no way it's that big. I think it's this big. So Kaido's dragon form is 600 meters long. Now, the argument and why a lot of people side with he's about 600 meters, they have said there is no way this structure here is 8 kilometers long. That's stupid. However, every bit of measuring anyone has ever done based off of the things that they can compare to the size of that structure suggests actually it is just 8 kilometers long. The One Piece world is way too big. Things are way too big here. And actually, yes, Kaido is about 3 kilometers long.
3 kilometers?
Yeah.
I don't have words for things that are 3 kilometers long.
That's too big. Even though every bit of scaling you can do suggests that, yes, he is 3 kilometers long.
Jesus God. That's like, what even is that?
It's too big.
Yeah. How do you fight that?
Well, I'll tell you what. You don't just punch it and hope it works.
The punches did more than I thought they would. I thought they would just be like flaccid, and Dragon would look at him like, are you funny? But no.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty excited about my dragon. Getting a 3 kilometer long dragon is a lot, and I'm happy about it. And he does drink a lot.
He's a drunk dragon.
I'm not sure if that's what I would call him as his like you know what? No words, too stupid now.
Do we want to keep talking about the dragon, or do we want to talk about the rest of Wano Act 1?
I am talking about Wano Act 1.
The rest of it.
Yeah, whatever. I'm not done talking about him. Because I've also decided now, because of who he is, what's happened, how much hype there is around him, that I think that there's some sort of This is just the best way I can describe it, so it's what I'm going to say.
Okay.
I think that there is some sort of prophecy around Kaido.
Yeah, because you were trying to figure out why he wanted to die.
Because he wants to die so badly, but he doesn't seem to want to be dead. He seems to want to die, and he can't die. So I think there is some sort of prophecy around Kaido that is making the act of dying, not necessarily the death and being dead, some sort of thing that he has to cross over to be counted as something.
Prophecy where he, to qualify as a thing that he wants to be, needs to die to achieve it.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It makes sense.
Here's why. I was looking something up because I was trying to figure out, like, why the freaking hell does this dude want to die? So then I started to think about what would it look like if you were the dragon and you were trying to fulfill a prophecy. Well, the only reason that you would care that much when you're this particular character is that you're looking for some sort of ultimate power, right? Like, the whole idea would have to be that by being this character, feeling like you are this character who dies, that you would gain some sort of infamy or even further power. So that's where I'm at right now.
Okay. So to achieve some power, fill some prophecy, Kaido needs to die.
He feels he does, yeah.
So people are always like, why doesn't he drown himself? And my solution at this part was very simple. He's an Eastern dragon, and Eastern dragons can breathe underwater. So he would just be paralyzed underwater forever, not dead. And that would suck. He wouldn't like that.
I guess so.
That was my theory for why he doesn't just drown himself.
Somebody asked a question that I couldn't ignore.
He's not a fish man, no. Jack is a fish man. Look, you can't use your powers underwater, but you can still get passive benefits from them. Like Luffy was still made of rubber underwater. So I think still being able to breathe underwater could just make sense. Can Brook drown? Who's to say, honestly? I think Brook doesn't want to find out if he can drown is the thing.
Brook doesn't have lungs, has lasting life, came back even though he had no flesh.
He does breathe because he got hit by the poison gas.
Makes no sense. That's more like a stick in your bones type thing.
But he did get poisoned by the poison gas. And he does eat, but he doesn't need to eat because he went without food for like 50 years. What is up, honestly?
All right. Well, we'll look at that later. Now we can go in order. I'm happy now. I did my little dragon time.
I need to get my Sunny for reference.
I'm really excited about the way that you're drawing my picture. It's the second time that we've made reference to kind of and I think that this was so clever, the idea of the oversized koi going up the mountain to become a dragon, and then we get the dragon. How delicious was that? Like, well done.
Did you know that there is probably no Japanese legend that the average nerd in North America knows better than the koi turning into a dragon?
Does it happen all the time or something?
No, it's because of Magikarp.
Magikarp.
There's a Pokemon called Magikarp entirely based off of this myth, and because of that,
I remember that.
Literally everybody who is a nerd in North America knows about this myth. Every trivia section, every Pokemon video that talks about Pokemon trivia, whatever, it talks about Magikarp turning into a dragon because of this myth.
Okay. The other thing is because in Japanese mythology, they have all sorts of myths around giant koi. There's one known as the Oniga or Onigoi demon carp, but their appearance is seen as both a blessing and a warning, that when you see them in a story, you know that you are getting a blessing, that it's still the idea that they're going up water, they become a dragon, which we get, but also that it's seen as a blessing to you doing this thing, but also a warning, which is interesting because in the beginning images of Wano, he put in 4 different things that were both a blessing and a warning.
Okay.
That are different type of imagery or wordings. And I was like, that's kind of crazy that he's trying to tell us. So before I told you that if we're going to be here, the crew is obviously going to be really changed when we leave. Because what percent of the story is in Wano?
Almost exactly 10% right now, yeah.
Which is wild. So clearly tons of changes need to happen. And where else is Luffy going to get that like big boy hit like he's going to get from a giant ass blue azure dragon of the east? Like nowhere else are you going to get that kind of hockey growth than playing off of our big boy. I think the whole blessing and a warning kind of really worries me that we're going to see some changes in our crew or injuries or problems that I'm going to struggle with.
You just made everybody flash to so many images from throughout Wano by talking about those things, and I think that's great.
As I was thinking about how in order to do this chapter, because he starts it off, and I always like to think about how for him, he's doing it for people who speak Japanese, know about Japanese legends, myths, know about what some of the symbology and mythology is. So for them, they know a lot of shit. They're being told shit ahead of time. And right away, he puts different characters, wordings, or things like the giant koi, which are seen as blessings and warnings. So he's telling everyone who's Japanese and knows this shit, hold on to your hats, bitches. We're going into a fire. We're going to grow. Shit's getting burnt.
I feel like Oda makes the feeling of threat feel so substantial, and I don't think anything has felt as intimidating coming into Wano since like Alabasta of coming to fight a warlord for the first time.
I would agree.
And maybe even that, like I don't know if that felt as scary as coming into Kaido's territory feels.
Kaido has been pumped up as being absolutely terrifying, and yet way scarier. Some of the things that they were talking about besides the warning symbols. So the one for Kaido, when I asked the question, what would be the reason that a character would want the act of dying but not death? And there's more to it, but atonement or redemption? Nope, out. Escape and suffering? Nope. Seeking attention? No. Breaking a curse or spell? Maybe. But we have had a spell or curse before, but it was kind of in a way that I didn't think fit with the story.
Yeah, the cursed swords, which don't feel like a curse you break by dying.
It feels like the swords and the cursed swords are their own thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so it feels to me like that's not the direction that it would go. Symbolic or ritualistic reasons, I kind of lean there for a minute, but I don't think so. To test the limits and overcome fear, dude does not have fear. To protect others, or to fulfill a prophecy or destiny. So I leaned into fulfill a prophecy or destiny, and then I started to rip that baby apart and think about it for myself. Because really when I'm doing it, I'm only use ChatGPT just as like another person, as if I'm having a conversation, because I don't get to have conversations except with you. And it turns out you're not at my beck and call, which is crap. I agree.
I think you're onto something. I think it's great, but it's so hard to think about that when I'm watching there be a poll for favorite Wano girl, and the least voted for option is Tama. That's wild.
What?
She works so hard. She's so cute. I love Tama.
Yeah, I love Tama. And she broke my goddamn heart.
Mm-hmm.
Broke it, then stepped on it, then crushed it. Okay, Straw Hat Luffy, 1.5 billion berry bounty. Bop, bop, bop. Triple B, baby. Nami, your outfit when you meet the little drummer boy octopus, adorbs, full adorbs. Okay, moving down. This is the image I chose, and I would have chose it over anything else until I saw the dragon. But Drock has an idea that he's doing for the story.
So, because we have 5 parts, I'm going to be drawing each of these to fit together as a collage. So the water here will flow into water in the other 4. Then I'm going to have Dragon Form Kaido basically circling all of them as a frame. And our 5th one, I already know what Mama's going to pick, unquestionably, and I'm going to use it to pull all of them together. We all know, everybody know.
I'm super stoked about it. Like, it was such a Luffy moment. It was so One Piece that I was like, this is undeniably what I want drawn. And it's perfect then, if I'm going to get a collage out of this, that this is step 1 of the collage. And it's also really interesting because 3 is such an important number in Japan as being associated with harmony and completeness and balance, and red, blue, and green, and that they believe red, blue, and green are primary colors. They're the most important basis of all human life. They believe that harmony, completeness, and balance together are what creates a great life. And so I thought it was so perfect that we begin our Wano collage with the 3 steps of the waterfall up into the new land.
Someone just had a thought. Should the collage be left to right, or should it be right to left on account of this is a manga?
That's actually a really good question. Let's wait until we see the images coming together and then see what we think.
It literally doesn't matter because someone just deleted the art.
I liked this art.
This hurts. That hurts to do. That was so painful to do.
Why'd you delete it all?
There was nothing else to delete. Maybe the same thing, but better. Wow, that one hurt more than normal. I don't know what it is. Children in fiction bother me and I find them annoying. Tama's perfect. Tama's the perfect fictional child.
That is not a lie. He talks about children all the time, being like,
Like, Jesus Christ, get out of this. Come on.
These kids suck. But right away, I think it was like I was just a couple of chapters past where we had stopped and you said, do you love Otama yet? And I was like, what? I also liked that we did like the crazy ass seas and everything is akimbo. And then they go into a whirlpool bouncing off of Luffy's tum-tum. At the top, after making it, then you go through a whirlpool. There's a whole thing within Japanese lore about Susanoo or Susano and a whirlpool and going down down into the world of the Raju King and talking about how the whirlpool can be used as an entrance into a different world. So I thought it was pretty amazing that you think you made it, you get to the top to where you become a dragon, and P.S. we get to see a dragon. I don't know if I've mentioned it enough times. And then you've got the whirlpool, which is the entrance into the world of the dragon. And I was like, God damn, man, you are massively layering all your little bits. And I'm like, so here for this, because if you're Japanese, reading this manga must be like an Easter egg hunt. I bet you it's just so fun. I'm so angry reading it that I'm not Japanese.
Because there's all this cultural context you're getting.
And also the Kiri dog, or what's his little name? Kumano or Kumenu?
Kama Inu. That's Inu in a name.
Okay. An open mouth, Koma Inu, it means beginnings. And a closed mouth, Koma Inu, is death or endings. So I'm really looking forward to seeing if it's mirrored in this arc. If we get the lion dog at the end, also ending it the way that we had it here in the beginning, showing us the death and ending of this arc before we move on. I was like, oh, I hope so. I hope he did that. The Koma Inu is used not only in so many temples, but they always come in pairs with one open mouth ah and one closed mouth un, and then they're believed to be like protection from evil spirits, etc., etc. But narratively, they're used as the open mouth beginnings and birth, and the closed mouth is deaths. Why are we just all okay with her pulling body parts off and turning them into dumplings?
It's a little kibidango.
It's so gross.
I don't love that we're disrespecting best girl Tama, but whatever.
Listen to me. Tama, amazing. Kawa, amazing. Pulling chunks of body parts off and throwing it in his food.
If you could pull kibidango off your face to tame wild animals, you would do it. You love wild animals.
Yeah, but I wouldn't expect people not to find it icky.
It's the same as Mr. 3 creating wax. It drips off of her body.
And how did I feel about that?
Look, is her devil fruit debatably incredibly unethical, especially when used against speed? Yes. Tama's a good girl.
I think that it's just worth mentioning that it's a bit gross.
And the ethics around it are highly questionable at best.
Yeah, because she's sweet and we expect good things out of her, we just forget the fact that she tamed the Kamanu dog with pieces of her face, and then she did the thing, and they just call it new friend rather than hypnotized slave.
Yeah, they do call it new friend rather than hypnotized slave. Like, it's not like Sugar's power where like, look, she's making friends.
Precisely my point. When she gets Horsalina, and Horsalina is like, yes, master, I'm like, precisely. So despite the fact that she is unquestionably adorable, unquestionably does things from a good place, or as an indigenous people would say, in a good way, does that change the fact that she has weird dumpling slave powers? No. Like, how do those mature? What could she do in the end? She could create armies of slaves if she wanted to, that all did her bidding.
Yep.
She could change every person's heart and mind who is currently a member of our East Blue Dragon Kaido's forces. It's kind of interesting to me that she doesn't go in that direction, given what's taken place to the people within there.
I think it's fair to tell you that it would only work on the smile users and not every person.
It would only work on animals, obviously, or on people who don't have real
devil fruits, yes, because they are merged with animal genetics in a weird way.
I will allow that. So I just started to think about, like, is there an unethical aspect of a person not using it? This is one of the very, very darkest openings in One Piece we've ever had.
Holy shit, is it? Yeah.
And so my question is, like, is it okay that we see her use this, tame an animal, but she doesn't tame animals or people who could be tamed, who could then say, I don't know, stop a baby from needing to be stabbed through the heart and murdered because they're all starving? So you have to start questioning how we use that power. So I was like, yeah, this is a slavery fruit, first of all. And if you have that ability, but you know people are starving to death and it isn't about you, where is the honor being placed? Is it more honorable to enslave people and save people who are killing people? And she's at least 8 because she met Ace a couple of whatever ago.
And she wasn't 4 when she taught Ace how to make hats.
Or should she not? Yeah, because they're giving her, even though she is a tiny child, they are giving her some wild powers.
Yep.
Wild. And she doesn't hesitate to use them against the mountain baboon. And she's super excited she gets it in its mouth in time. And she doesn't hesitate to give it to Horselina. Now, I can't remember, and I'll get to that chapter. No, Luffy influences her, doesn't he? Luffy's like, give the horse your face or something. I don't remember. Anyway, it started to make me think like, okay, where is this power going to grow to? Where is she going to create her ethical line for slavery? And how is it going to change over the years? Because this is a wild power.
Very luckily, some of the ethical concerns about it are at least addressed later in the arc. It's at least addressed.
Then you have the long-nosed freak face, and I was so grateful for him because it was so nice to see another person who we're kind of at least leaning more into the idea of Usopp existing in some way, because you're like, whole Usopp existing thing that we're never...
It's just a Tengu mask.
Regardless, when we use the Tengu mask, it allows us to kind of see like an Usoppian connection. Oh, I forgot about that part. Right in the beginning, we're on the goddamn beach and those bastards show up and they're like, no, I heard you say it loud and clear. You're a servant of the wicked Kazuku clan. That's a serious crime. You'll either be sold to the red light district at 8 years old or you'll be thrown in jail.
They'll probably have her do housekeeping for a few years. She'll just be sweeping. It's fine.
Bite your tongue, kid. Bite your tongue.
It's fine.
So I was like, God damn, this is one of the darkest beginnings we had ever seen. And that was before I watched a mom sitting there and having her last good cry with a rope hanging beside her, the grandmother praying on her Buddhist beads, the father standing at the door in a resigned look, and the mother with a knife at her baby's throat. So one of the very darkest beginnings I have ever seen in any single One Piece arc. I was like, shit, you're holding nothing back.
There are moments of history throughout Japan where the emperor was overthrown by a shogun or the shogun was overthrown by a resurgent emperor that came about because of a decadent society causing its people to starve in a similar way to the most draconian periods of French history. And I genuinely think a lot of Wano is meant to be a celebration of Japanese history and culture, and a lot of it is meant to be a scathing critique.
Yes, and like I was looking up, because I was trying to remember some of my Japanese history from university, but I was looking up Japanese isolation policy and what it was like if you were in a poorer class, and they were like, it wasn't that bad, and it wasn't precisely, there wasn't a lot of starving. But then I remembered like, no, they're missing something because they've mentioned nothing about any of the rice riots in this answer. So I went back in and put in rice riots and discovered, during the Tokugawa Bufuku, there were 3 rice riots and the economy was run on rice.
Oh yeah, the thing that originally made samurai exist were because people needed a professional bodyguard to protect their rice fields.
Too, like that's what people ate and paid for everything. Yeah, exactly. So despite the fact that they were saying that like people who were poor didn't really have that hard of a time, not really true. I also really enjoyed that when we met her master, what's his face? Tengu Yama Hitetsu, because the Tengu are in Japanese folklore are not only excellent sword makers, but they are apparently depicted as the people who would have taught humans the art of swordsmanship. There's a whole legend around a famous swordsmith who learned from the original Tengu and then brought the advice and techniques to humans to teach them how to make great swords, and that legendary swords and perfect swords came out of the Tengu. So I loved that we have him as the thing. I also love that they chose his name as Hitatsu because it means, it's like a made up almost thing. It's a name that could have various meanings, but in the end it means single ore or iron.
Okay.
I loved that Oda decided to have him have that mask off, give him the name Tengu Yama Hitetsu, so he becomes like master sword maker made of iron. I thought that was such a cool little, that's what I mean. The Easter eggs in this is, they're just wild and I'm not finding them all and it pisses me off.
I'm so sorry you don't speak Japanese and you weren't reading weekly so that you couldn't have people tell you these translations without risking spoilers.
I know. I hope you are sorry. I'm also very curious because his wings are different than anyone else's. I'm not wrong here, am I? Huge and white, like legitimately flyable. Like when you look at his wings, they have enough musculature and depth to them that you're like, actually, I could see these actually working to create flight. Luffy blurting out that Ace is dead, by the way, is really interesting. I've gone through a full cycle on this. You and I were talking about how Luffy doesn't want to lean on his relationships with other people in his relationships with the people he makes, which is like, he is the exact opposite of nepotism. When he moves forward through the world, he acts as if all those friendships and all those connections he's made along the way aren't coming with him, despite how deeply connected to those people that he still is. He doesn't mention to people right away like, oh, I know this queen or this princess, or I helped these people out. He treats each relationship as if it's brand new, and it is just him, his personality, his words, his deeds, and he doesn't lean into having to have glow off of anyone else that he knows. So it's fascinating because he comes here and he doesn't say like, Ace was my brother, I'm sorry to tell you he's died. He just says Ace is dead, which is also like a trauma response where he's saying like, that's how I have to say it, because A, it's a way of getting it out of your mouth quickly so that you actually say the truth that need to be said, and B, because you are not the person you were before their death. And so it was really interesting to see the way that he said that here and just hits her in the face with it, and she loses her shit, even though she calls him big bro, which is pretty incredible, and how angry Hitetsu gets, because whether Hitetsu knows it or not, yeah, he traumatized her in that response, and then immediately Hitetsu returns the favor and traumatizes Luffy, because then he takes them back to the village of Amigasa of woven hats and tells this whole story about how they all wove hats together and how it was such an incredible skill, and that they had tied Ace up and his crew and eaten all his food, and they feared retribution in the end when Ace just burned off the ropes, and he said, well, where can a guy get some good dessert? And so Luffy has to relive what an incredibly cool person his brother is, and he laughs and he takes it in this moment, but at the same time you can imagine how he's having to hear that he is steps behind places that his brother went before him, that he still hasn't outlived his brother's shadow, he's still coming to places where his brother has been, and that memory isn't something he can push aside or move on from because it's still present. Ace's world, his friends, who he was, is still present in everything we do. And so I thought that was a really cool way of bringing Ace back into her. And, you know, crush my entire soul.
Only a little bit.
My entire soul. I love me, my Ace. He my boy. He a bit dead. And now we had to hear all these great things he did and the amazing human that he had been. I'm really looking forward to Zoro getting a great good sword off of him. I'm thinking it's the cursed one that Luffy has right now. Zoro has this thing about having cursed swords. He loves to have cursed swords. I'm really hoping that eventually all three of Zoro's swords are cursed.
But he needs to keep Kuina's sword, and it's not cursed.
Oh, right, he has Kuina. Well, I'm wondering whether or not this cursed sword and his other cursed sword, which has currently been absconded, right? Did he get it back when he cut open the place?
I think he has the sword again when he cut the out of what's-his-face. I think it's implied.
Because I was like, oh, if he's got two cursed swords, how will they work together? Will they amplify each other? Will we see something cool and cursed now? That's my hope. My hope is that we're going to have those cursed swords work off of each other and we're going to see some shit. Again, just chuck that out there. It's Chekhov's gun. You can't bring out cursed swords, then never see anything about it. You gotta play off that curse. Wait a minute. I don't know who the person was who told you to delete your art, but I'm not gonna lie.
It just looks better. It's the same thing, but better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of incredible. So I'm wondering if it's going to be people inside of the curse, or is it going to be like ghosts, people? Like, how is it going to interact and what is it going to do when these curses come out? Oh, I'm so excited about cursed swords. Mama, who is the bestest animal in the new world so far? Are you? I thought you liked me. What? No, this is not a thing I can do right now. That's a transition I cannot do.
I'm not a coward and I can answer the best animal. Zanesha.
You don't love animals enough.
Zanesha.
Who do you think is the best animal?
Zanesha. Done. Best animal.
Oh, Zhao.
Yeah. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy.
I'm not going to be bullied into answering, even though Zhao and Janessa is so amazing. I'm still not, you bullies.
Yeah, I'm just saying, what other animals are sustaining life for an entire civilization?
This whole wing thing also pisses me off. That some people just have wings and we don't talk about them and it isn't a big deal and they're never mentioned in this. Pardon?
It's just their deal. It's just what their deal is.
No, it's going to become a big deal. We're going to find out about wings. Wings are going to matter and I want wings. Well, yeah. Speaking of animals and Chopper, a raccoon dog, you've got the big bully sumo wrestler who stops eating mid-time and is like, what is that? And they're like, that's just our raccoon. He's been our pet for many years. Yeah, I want to eat him.
Yeah, he's not a good guy, that guy.
No, this arc is Oda took the gloves off.
Yeah, things get suddenly a lot darker, huh?
I think it's really, really upsetting that Ace said that she would go to sea, because I know that Luffy can't make her a crew member. Even Luffy Luferson isn't going to bring a little girl out on his ship to live on the ship forever.
Roger had an apprentice.
Was it an 8-year-old?
I think Buggy was probably 8 at some point.
When he was an apprentice, not at some point in his life.
I don't know. I feel like 12 is more the age of a ship apprentice.
That's what I think too. I just feel like the reason that Ace wasn't in a hurry is that she was so little. It was pretty interesting though, because it really highlighted that when a person dies in here, that there are promises that are left unfulfilled and that they are just hanging out in the air and will never be fulfilled.
Yeah.
And we only think of the person's death and we don't think of the consequences to everybody else, what takes place, the dreams that are left behind. How many other of these Tomo people are sitting out there waiting for Ace to come back to help them out of a situation they're in?
This is a thing I wanted to talk about with you that I had pointed out as we headed into this, that the past saga, Luffy got to be a static character. He got to not really be tested in his personality because the test was on his crew needing to highlight why Luffy was worth choosing and needing to make the hard choice to follow Luffy in difficult circumstances, because the theme was about how to pick a leader. Whereas this is about the struggles of responsibility in leadership, this saga. Specifically with Wano in this saga, the focus seems to be on failure and failing your promises, failing your responsibilities. Odin failed to save Wano, obviously, look at it. Luffy failed to keep the crew together. He almost lost Sanji.
Whitebeard failed to save his village.
Yep, Ace failed to come free Tama. This is about the failure that comes from responsibility of leadership, that you can make these promises, these oaths, and you're not guaranteed to succeed just because you've sworn to something. Even in a world where conviction is power, you are not guaranteed to have that conviction be enough.
Yeah, exactly. But you know, I found that actually really comforting, because a lot of time we're held back as people because we're so concerned to make a promise to somebody or to think that we're going to help them in the future, because we feel in some way that if we don't come back and fulfill that promise, then it's not worth making, that then we have, in our death, we have gone against our word. But that's actually cowardly. That's a cowardly way of looking at things. If instead we say, like, by making that promise that we're going to be there, if we are alive and we can do our everything, then yeah, we will come back. If we can't, we've given people hope and positive reinforcement. And she was working hard to fulfill a promise she made to Ace so that Ace would fulfill the promise he made to her. And so that meant that she stayed alive. She had something to look forward to. She had a purpose and a dream. And so I think that it's a really interesting point in One Piece that despite the fact that these people made promises that could not be fulfilled, it doesn't mean that their lives were worse. Mm-hmm. It just means that they couldn't fulfill the end.
I also think it's very nice in the theme of inherited will for Luffy to now look at this and realize it's not just what he owes Tama anymore. It's a chance to live up to Ace's promise and carry on a promise that Ace would want delivered and let Ace's will be acted on in this world. I think it's a great example of inherited will being found very naturally in the series.
Yeah, I would completely agree.
What beautiful writing in this horrible tragedy where everyone is suffering. You know what's great?
What?
The suffering gets worse.
When he runs into Zoro, it was really interesting to see that Zoro comes out drinking. He's partly drunk. He's wandering around. His one good eye was closed and he looks like an idiot. He's being even more obstinate than normal, because it really made me think about how much better Zoro's life is. Do you know the old, beautiful Christmas time movie, It's a Wonderful Life?
Yeah.
And how he gets to find out how different everybody's life would have been if he had been there. And he said, I bet everybody would have such a better life if I wasn't here, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. And then no, famously not. It made me think about Zoro, because does he take Zoro down and force him kind of to become part of his crew? And does Zoro say, I already have a thing that's really important for me to do? And then Zoro, even in that moment in Thriller Bark, is willing to give up on his own personal dreams and ambitions so that he can fulfill Luffy's. But then you see Zoro here and boom, he had to break out of committing seppuku, and now he's wandering drunk across the countryside, being even more obstinate than usual. And he's only been away from Luffy for like, what, a week?
like a couple weeks, 3 weeks or so.
2-3 weeks. And so it really made me have an It's a Wonderful Life moment.
Yeah.
When I looked at Zoro and was like, God, so Luffy really does help you be a better person.
Jesus Christ. I've literally never thought, because I have thought about how Amazon Lily highlights how much Luffy struggles without his crew. I've never thought about the showing what happens to Zoro when he's not part of this greater team. Everyone else is thriving, working together. They have their secret identities. Zoro gets accused of murder. He wanders around drunk, getting in fights, bothered by people, like getting lost, poisoning himself.
Gets arrested and forced to commit seppuku, is poisoning himself slowly off of the land's food and water. When we run into him, his hair is clearly filthy. He has dirt on his face. When you look at some of the different panels, he's got like dirt above his eye and on his chin. And I was like, damn, Zoro, you really fell hard and fast without Luffy Luferson in the crew. So I think it's really interesting that we got to see how much purpose and focus having Luffy in his life. Luffy's being so chaotic forces someone like Zoro, who I could see being laissez-faire, into being more focused and responsible.
Honestly, think you're right. I've never thought about it that way, but he's just...
And I was like, this is such a cool thing that we get to see, like, the consequence of Zoro being without Luffy.
Oh my God.
And I kind of loved it. And the minute that Luffy comes in, all of a sudden there's a focus. The bad guys show up, and this is what Kinemon said, Luffy, don't cause fuss. He immediately comes out of his drunken stupor. He stands straighter. He gets his swords ready. He goes to fight them, and he's like, what are you doing, Luffy? And he's already becoming more of the big brother role again. And I was like, it's hilarious. The second the chaos of Luffy shows up and Zoro feels the need to protect him, help him move forward, and keep him under control, boom, he switches into that other man.
That's so powerful. You're absolutely right. I love how much characterizing Oda does implicitly. Like, I know there are people who don't think about this series as hard as we do, who do think Oda doesn't characterize as well as other mangaka, but it really just is that he doesn't tell you things. He's never directly like, hey, this is a personality trait. He makes you think about every interaction, and it leads to this very cool thing that everyone notices depth in different places.
Yes.
Outside of short stories, I don't know any other media that's so dense with small detail that when you speak to someone about it, they got information you never noticed.
And the way that he highlights it is absolutely stunning. So here, when you first read this, you can take it any way you want. Here's how I'm taking.
Okay.
When we first see them come together and they're going to go into a fight, Zoro immediately is like, Luffy, and Luffy's like, what? And he's like, you told us not to do this. And Luffy's like, that's why I'm here. I want to beat up Kaido. Then Zoro's like, Luffy. And then Zoro looks over and sees his sword. Say, where'd you get that sword? Huh? It's a verily good blade, right? And then they start fighting, and Luffy uses the sword incorrectly over and over and over again, which lets Zoro do things like, Luffy, it's not a gun. Luffy, it's this. So he immediately starts bossing Luffy around and telling Luffy how to do things and admonishing him for the things that he is doing and being like, good God, Luffy, and yet fighting with him, which immediately forces Zoro to remember, that's right, I'm with Luffy. I'm not allowed to be a lazy, walking around, dragging my feet, getting drunk person. Luffy's here now. I have to be on my P's and Q's. God damn it, Luffy, are you punching with a sword? It allows Zoro to take that role back on immediately, and it allows Oda to show how much Luffy's presence changes who Zoro is.
This is what the people come here for. The depth of observation they're here for.
I thought it was absolutely prime.
It's fantastic.
I was like, God damn, Oda, you do some amazing shit in here.
I think I'm also going to bring this to my friend who thinks that Zoro feels too perfect and like a Mary Sue, that pointing out that like he's actually an irresponsible hobo who only acts the way he does because he's sworn himself to protect a dumbass with even less self-preservation instincts than him, and that's the reason he comes across as so responsible, because he cares about his oaths and his word. So he's like, look, I said I'd be your first mate, so I need to be a responsible adult because you're doing this.
So now I can see that Zoro is the type of person that, unless he is a first mate on a mission that has meaning to him where he is helping to protect, or a father, he's going to wander around drunk, dragging his feet, being dirty, not giving a shit, getting into weird fights and protecting people when his personal values are pushed on.
Yep.
And I was like, let's make sure that he ends in a way where he still has a meaning and purpose to stay off the sauce and on the track, because He falls quick.
Oh my God, this also works perfectly with how often people are like, wait, that guy's not the captain when they see how responsible and dedicated Zoro is. Like, he can't be, because if he were on his own, he couldn't be like this. If he hadn't sworn himself to somebody who needed him to be serious, he wouldn't be this way. He would not be the man you see before you.
Exactly. And I think that is brilliant writing. And I like that Oda doesn't make a great big thing out of it. He just uses these visual cues and a few little things to be like, yeah, you see what Zoro actually is like? Good thing he's on Luffy's mission. This is allowing him to be the person he needs to be to have his own goals set too. So why does he stand up for Luffy? Why does he put Luffy's goals in front of his own? Because intrinsically Zoro understands that if Luffy wasn't there, that he would wander around training, become a loser, and maybe lose focus because he would start not having the intensity that he needs to have. But being the first mate to Luffy means your life is always at intensity 10.
I love that. What's the thing we haven't talked about for earning a star? Kaido's going to make some worst generation members his henchmen. Yeah, that's a gold star.
Oh, right.
2 of them are definitely henchmen now.
Yeah, baby. Dun da da da. Ding. Hawkins being a straw man with Luffy being a straw hat. This shit is wild to me. Okay, I want to get into
Let's get into it.
Otsuru. I love Otsuru. She is adorable. She has a geisha's hairstyle, which I thought was interesting. It's done in a geisha style. I love her. You want to know something else that I love about her?
What's that?
I hate to do this, but it's time once again for titty talk. So,
oh my God.
she is the first woman that I have ever seen that actually has a just regular chest. We're not really looking at her boobs.
Yeah.
Is kind of a different body type, a different face type, and is still beautiful. And I'm so grateful for her existence. I was like,
it's crazy to see regular boobs because, like, people point out, we've seen Otohime, who's flat as and we now have Kiku, who's flat, but Tsuru manages to have boobs and be thin, and they're not the size of her head. It's insane. Yeah, apparently it's because of the kimono, which
giant breasts changed the way the obi sits.
Later in this arc, there are 2 other women we see in a kimono who look a lot bustier than Tsuru does. I'm going to give it to Tsuru.
Anyway, I was so excited to see her have smaller boobs, and she is a delightful looking person. She has a different type of body type. You can tell that she's quite thin and willowy and yet beautiful. Hats off to you, sir. Hats off.
Oda, you've drawn a woman. Now, you might say that she's only not busty because of a kimono, but you know what?
We are all excited. Okay, moving on. I can't believe this chick is 9 feet tall. She gets to wear a kimono. Maybe I can go to Japan after all and get a kimono.
Somehow I think there's not many 9 foot tall women in real Japan.
I'm going to say to them, hey, if you could make one for her, where's mine?
And they're going to be like, ma'am, this is a manga you're holding. This is a fictional manga you are holding.
I'm 3 feet shorter than her. I'm a mere 6'2". Give me a kimono. I love this argument.
This isn't a real woman, ma'am.
Okay. Please, ma'am, you've got to take it away. I can't even pay for the medicine. There's no way I can afford this nice Osharuko. Oh, my heart. When she sits there and is like, oh, I promise I'll pay for the herbs. And then the best girl is like, you are pissing me off. Shut your stupid face and eat the goddamn food. And then we find out it's her birthday.
Yep.
Where she goes, please, Otama, just eat it. Once Otsuru makes his offering, she refuses to take no for an answer. How long are you just going to sit there holding it? Lucky you, right? And it's your birthday, too. Is that true? It's so good. I never knew food could be this good. That one panel of a close-up with her face where she's breathing out steam and tears are dripping down her little face. Are you shitting me? It just highlights so bad where she weaves hats day in and out and occasionally meals of crude millet at best. Luffy needs to feel like such an asshat. I'll never have such a nice birthday again. I'm sorry, master. Oh, my whole heart. This is the bestest day I've ever had. And then she goes to sleep. It was really nice to have that. We really needed to, given that in a minute we were going to watch someone try to murder their baby.
Yep. So this is the point that I wanted to bring up, the friend I had talked to you about, who I have to imagine the only way you can feel this way is if you are, unlike me, quite religious, and the idea of an eternal soul has some real value to you. Because I have had a friend argue that Tataland is a worse, more evil place to live than Wano. And I just keep that conversation going through the course of Wano, especially Act 2, because immediately in Act 1, I'm going, no, this is less good. This is a bad place.
Yeah, no.
People shouldn't live here.
You'd have to be drunk to think that. I'm afraid to tell you.
I think to them, they weren't religious, but they grew up religious. The ephemeral concept of a soul had a lot more meaning to them than it has to me. But also, Act 2, things get worse.
You've just upset me a lot.
Hey, it always has to be darkest just before the dawn, right?
And her name is Chizuru, which is amazing because it's also the name for cranes. And in Japanese culture, the crane is a highly symbolic and it's longevity. So it could be longevity of her relationship and health, happiness and good fortune, peace and tranquility, devotion and loyalty, which she is more than doing, and art and creativity. And it's sad, but I see her art and creativity as being creative with the leftovers and the rotting food, that she's still able to produce meals that bring happiness and health to people from them. Sad as it is what it is. So then she gets stolen by the dude with the fishnets. And I find fishnets are already difficult on toes. So I'm kind of surprised this person wants to wear them with hooves, with Gazelle Man and his weird gifters, Gazelle Man with the smile fruit, stealing our sweet good girl. He should be punched in the face. Absolutely. But I'm very surprised that he thinks that the best option for him is fishnet stockings.
I feel like Kaido was like, all right, boys, let's talk uniform. And people were like, cool. And he was like, all right, 3 requirements, all right? Number 1, leather. Everyone's like, we can do that. Cool. Number 2, you got to wear little horns. And they were like, weird, but we can do it. We can keep up with that. And then he's like, and then just kind of like try to like look a bit funky. And they were like, do you have a specific like vibe? You want to like scare old people at the mall is kind of the vibe I'm going for. And everyone just heard that and was like, I guess run with that in whatever direction we think of, huh? I'll wear fishnets over my hooves. Will that, do you think he's going to count that as funky? And Gazelle Man showed up the next day and Kaido was like, this guy's got it. King showed up full head to toe leather and Kaido's like, brilliant, my man. Yes, we got it. Yes, do it.
Paladin is right. When I was watching this, I was like, he totally made a Batman and a Joker and he made them friends, because Gazelle Man's got his goddamn smile fruit. And then he has Batman. And could it be any better that Batman appears the way that he does? Like, if we're talking about the literal opposite of Batman, it's this. This is literally the opposite of Batman. But both of them do look like they're going to pull out the gimp. And if you like to be dominated, you're in for a good time.
A conversation I've actually had pretty often with people, Kaido and Big Mom, something that kind of sets them apart from anyone else we've fought so far is their average mooks, their upper rank mooks are way more powerful than what we've seen before. What do you think is a better mook army, the gifters or the homies?
I really got a soft spot for the homies, like just as far as design and interest. I've really got a soft spot, but I don't even think Frostfire that it's a secret kink. I think that Kaido's BDSM is just there.
It also makes sense because his entire vibe is dominating his crew. Like, that is what he's leaning into. He wants to break people's spirit, break them down, and force people to obey him.
There's more homies, I think, than there is gifters.
I think so, but I think homies, because like the homies all have weird powers the way gifters do, but I feel like their powers are more diverse. Like an anime suit bull, you don't know what that is gonna do. If I see a guy with a crab claw, I'm like, I have an idea of his capability. He can get me with the crab claw. If I see an animate soup bowl charging me, I don't know where to start.
You know what I think is the scariest thing about the homies too is you don't even need to feed those bitches. They just sit around doing whatever, hanging out. They will amuse themselves, and then maybe you can eat them, kind of like the way they talk about my poor boy Chopper. You know, oh, I might need to eat something. You can eat a homie. So I think as far as like an evil posse, my posse's on Broadway, but I think I'm bringing the homies.
And I know that like the gifters aren't the lowest, but I'm talking like advanced mook. They have a rank of soldier that is still enough to slow down important characters. The homies can do that, and so can the gifters.
Raviolus makes a good point too about how the homies are easy to replace and you can make new ones. Also, the gifters are people who could definitely come after you, hold grudges, get pissed off, try to come up. Homies aren't doing that. And Paladin said, and maybe they photosynthesize. Yeah,
homies are terrifying.
Which would make sense. It's a sugar land.
The gifters are scary. I would still rather fight them than the more powerful homies who I would be truly confused by. Like, I don't know how to begin fighting them.
Yeah. So we're going to Bakura, which is a surname in various cultures, which is interesting. But in Japanese, it's a region and it can translate as burst or explosion. So I thought that was really interesting because what they mean by it is in some contexts, they use it metaphorically to describe intense emotional outburst or dramatic events.
Okay.
So saying you're heading to the town of Bakura, what a perfect freaking name for that. There's just all sorts of nuggets in here. I'm so jealous of Japanese speakers. Did we already do the Bellamy cover story?
We did not do the Bellamy cover story. What's that guy up to? What's our friend Bellamy doing?
He went into the little town where he looked like Don Quixote, which was interesting. He headed into a town that was a self-proclaimed straw hat fleet. Bonus story, the village of dyed goods. And he comes into all the windmills with all the fabrics. I thought that was pretty cool. Aww. I'm so happy that he finally is working like an honest kid.
I'm glad that he's learned a lesson.
Anyways, the hero, Batman, comes and steals the girl who can rip her cheeks off and enslave people.
Otama. When you put it that way, he does sound like the hero in this moment.
And then out comes this one is a samurai. Yeah, no duh. And who do we run into? Law. Captain, we've got trouble. Captain, it's Straw Hat and Roronoa. They're heading into Bakura Town, which has the meaning of dramatic, escalating, explosive events, which is what's going to happen. Straw Hats and Wano, he's going to cause nothing but trouble. Yes, exactly. We've got to stop those idiots. Good luck, Law. I think that you've met them.
I love Law being informed this, and he's just like, yeah.
That checks out. I think that Law should have had Luffy shows up with the rest of the Straw Hats and causes problems on his bingo card. Like, easy prediction, brother. Easy prediction.
He's probably already been reading the newspaper like, Roronoa, did you get accused of murder again? That's 3 times. We've been here 2 weeks.
I hate the mouse man with the mouse smile fruit. I'm glad they all have smile fruits because I'm hoping that she puts her cheeks into all of their food.
Damn.
Or whatever it is. So anyone that has a smile fruit, if later on she takes little pieces of her face and breaks up all of these little chunks, she can have it mixed into their food and take over all of those bitches. Like, let me tell you, that's how I would use my slave fruit. I would rip my little cheeks off and put it into these bad guys' food. Unbeknownst to them, they would all eat up. And then I would be like, come on, guess who you fight for now? Yeah, it's me. And you're going to fight against a dragon. Oh, is it that dragon? You betcha.
And then Kaido murders all of his men.
Yeah, but we need Kaido there to interact with them in that way so that the real plan can happen from the other side. Those are the most dispensable people. They're despicable.
True.
Hold'em, the headliner Beast Pirates, Hold'em.
Not a good guy, no.
And he's got a line around his waist that's a belt and a line. You know what, though? What was very good about this?
Yeah.
The line grabbing him in the nuts.
Yeah.
That was good.
You're a fan of the bit of this man sacking himself?
The lion's patented family jewel attack. Yes. Yes, please. But they share the same body, so the lion's jewels get hit at the same time. That's a good joke. I hope to see that more times because that's amazing.
I love how some of the smile fruits make them genuinely terrifying, like the stupid wings on Batman's ankles. That's just a good power. That can fly, and he's got bat ears. The smile fruit really worked out well for Batman. Hold'em got a rough deal.
Yeah, he did, but you want to know a secret about Hold'em?
What's that?
He sucks. So I'm glad he has a rough deal, and I look forward to the lion punching himself and himself in the body over and over again in the nuts.
Okay.
And did you see that they named the sumo wrestler Yakuza?
Yakuzuna. His name is Yakuza in it.
That's awesome. And he's tatted up.
Oh, Yakuzuna is a title, apparently. Never mind. Not a Yakuza reference. It means sumo wrestler. Anyways.
I love that the samurai girl comes in and is just like, I have an idea. Oh, come and be mine now. This one knows of no person named Chattel. Cuts off his top knot. What do you got now? You got yourself a little pineapple head is what you got going on there.
Only one man can pull off that style, and it's me.
She left no crumbs. She took this moment and made it her own. Luffy goes, that was so sweet, man. Kiku is awesome. This is starting to get fun now. And then Zoro goes, that should get the boss involved mighty quickly. And it's just like such prime moment. Oh, it was so good. I loved it.
Well, people are pointing something out that I want to mention here. Remember when I said you shouldn't be watching the anime because it's mostly bad pacing? This episode is some of the most infamous bad pacing in all of One Piece because Luffy and Yokozuna slapping hands against each other is stretched out to literally about 2.5 minutes.
Are you kidding me? The thing that I was actually about to say to you, which is so interesting that you say that, I was going to point out that the reason that I really enjoyed this battle is you know what's going to happen? Let's get to it. And they do.
Mhm.
You come in,
Yep.
boom. He says things about chattel, boom. She comes in
yeah.
and takes off his top knot. Moments later, Luffy is like, looks like it's time to do the beating you up.
Yeah, apparently it's 4 minutes plus of Luffy and Orochima pushing against each other with their hands and then going, whoa, 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 as they almost fall out of the ring.
Ew.
Yeah.
I'm really glad I got to read it.
Yeah.
He's got the face of a demon god, and then she goes, oh no, and puts her hand over her mouth. What has this one done in front of so many people? And then just as he's about to take her out, Luffy comes in, sumo slap. And you're like, yes. I am so glad I only had to look at it for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 panels, and then they stood back up.
Perfect.
6 panels, fight begins. And that's, in my opinion, the amount of time it should have taken. No more, no less.
Someone said they don't know how people can put up with the anime pacing. For my wife's case, it just is that because she hasn't read One Piece in the beginning, it's really hard to read at first. Like, it takes a while to learn how to read One Piece because of how busy it is.
It is a brain switch. I love that for me. I realized in the last arc, I think, that I was like, yeah, I don't even have to think about it now.
Yeah.
Until I read in front of people, and then I second guess myself because you get weird because you're reading in front of people and they're reading the panel page with you. You know that reading in class feeling?
Yeah.
It's like that.
I love getting so much information from every picture, but I fully understand people choosing not to engage with it with how dense the panels are these days.
But I got to tell you, his paneling at this point is so much easier to follow than his paneling in the beginning when he was just shoving 15 freaking thousand things in per panel.
I think there's a weird mix. Sometimes the beginning could be clean, but I also think he wasn't very good at conveying action in the beginning. And this is an art tip for anybody. If you're drawing action, don't draw a moment of impact. A big problem with earlier One Piece and why the action feels very hard to follow is the fight choreography is a lot of impact frames where a punch is hitting, whereas later on, a ton of the best choreography and what makes the action easier to read later on in One Piece and what makes action really easy to read in things like Dragon Ball is you, like a good animator, focus your art on the moment winding up to throw a punch and then the result of the punch afterwards. The moment of impact is where motion is stopped, and in real life, it's not something you see a lot. So if you're drawing a comic book and you want to draw action or even an illustration with action, it's better to draw the follow through or the wind up than it is the impact. It's a general art tip for anybody out there who wants to draw action.
And then break that rule with things like sumo slap.
Yeah, I really love the design of Kaido's face.
I really hate that he pulled on her little face over and over again. From what I hear, you dropped the name Kozuki. Don't go chasing ghosts now. That's because Kozuki is a ghost name and the clan of the evil spirits. And then he's just yanking away at her face. But I was also really glad that he did that because it allowed Luffy to get really pissed off afterwards. And I love angry Luffy so much. It's one of my favorite Luffys. When he gets righteously angry about someone hurting a friend of his, one of my favorite Luffys. I get shivers.
My favorite Luffy is definitely overwhelmed with joy.
Yeah. Sumo slap. He just takes over that big, jerky, dumb face's entire body and knocks his ass right out. Boom. And where does he go? Who knows? Through buildings, off places, out into the town. Good times, good times. Oh, Zuno, Shima got completely demolished. It can't be. He would never lose to that shrimpy guy. You guys saw how big his hand got, right?
You watched that happen.
Wasn't just me watching his hand get bigger than the dude's body. Come on now, catch your shit up. It's him. The guy who sliced up the magistrate. Oh, Zoro Juro. Yeah, so what? Don't tell me he's in on this too. What with the tough swordsman and the sumo kid? Who are these people? And then they did a trio pose reminiscent of like Charlie's Angels or probably many different Japanese things. I don't care. It felt very Charlie's Angels to me, and that's how I'm doing it. Also kind of Kill Bill.
Well, yeah, of course it feels like Kill Bill. Kill Bill and most of Tarantino's choreographies are taken from Kurosawa.
Yeah. Anyways, stunning, but it also just had a Kill Bill influence in the vibrancy. And unlike in a lot of his panels, he's done this incredible job in his Japanese style panels. Well, he's got so much going on. For instance, there's this one where it shows him going through all the walls when he gets slapped out of the ring. We don't actually see his body. We see the after effects. The house's roofs are lifted off, and then we see the crowd through it, and then all the rings and the flags, and yet he somehow makes it not feel crowded or complicated and layered. In the earlier paneling, I remember that he would put a bunch of stuff in, and it felt like different parts of the scene were actually obscuring other things you needed to see. And in this one, there's no obstruction. You have a clear view of what's taking place and of the action and the movement, but it does have a very Kill Bill feeling in how separate and vibrant each piece of the scenery is.
The way I feel Oda's paneling is advanced is he's always been an artist who wants to fill everything with information, but he's gotten better at knowing when to pull back and when to go all out, like when he can afford to push harder and put more in, and when he needs to do a little bit less. Like there's a more careful decision making of when to do one or the other.
Hey, they're right. Luffy has been really ripped, not just in this panel, but in...
Oh, Luffy looks jacked in Wano.
In this arc, Luffy has got a real ace glow up. He has really kind of an ace style body.
You're starting to see the Garp in him, like in that Garp physique start to build on the boy.
Yeah. Do you think, is this something that we're going to see move forward? I wouldn't say that that is a spoiler.
It's hard to say. There's a yes and no to it. Overall, this more barrel-chested Luffy is just kind of what he looks like now.
He looks jacked. And in this amazing triad of posings, which is just pure delight, Luffy is posing in the same way that I have another pose of Ace, finger pointed, and instead of turning it on its end in a finger gun, it's a finger point straight out, kind of calling the shot. So it's pretty cool. It's a matching one. And it's same body type as Ace, similar lean. It's pretty cool.
Huh.
Yeah, I was really here for it. Even his legs are jacked. He didn't skip leg day.
I mean, that gear second pump and building muscle probably.
And I loved this one. Fight them. Tom is the kid that the master's got a hold of. Take her back if you can. What should this one do? And here's Zoro's response. Don't play coy. You don't need my help.
Oh, that's great.
It's hot is what it is. Like, that was a moment for Zoro when I was like, yeah, you just moved yourself way up. Like, that was hot.
Zoro, you can tell Wano's going to be kind to the boy.
Did he start off a little difficult? Did he start off a little bit drunk, dragging his feet around and dirty? Yeah, it was a thing. But he's coming back strong. And Luffy's scar, they have now made it so that I can't remember a time when Luffy didn't have the X marks the spot on his chest, and it looks like it was always meant to be there.
Feels like it fits his design so well. I am noticing, looking at reference right now, somehow, people are going to roast me for this, never noticed before, that Kaido has literally the exact same scar, and it's kind of cool.
Yeah, I was like, what the Kaido? I was actually kind of pissy. I'm going to save you now, Tama. I have no intention of giving her back, you fool. I have things, but I'm not going to say them.
Okay.
I really loved watching the saga of Bellamy kind of coming out better, learning how to do things, sitting at a drafting table, making pieces, giving a shit. They tell a lot. That whole picture says 1,000 words. He's got a lantern lit, which implies that he's working well into the night.
This is one of my favorite panels in a cover story.
So here are the things that I was noticing about this. It shows him grinding the ink in the background, and I know something about how Japanese ink is made, so I thought that was a really cool thing, and we see the different mortar and pestles in the background. Then it shows different versions of what it needs to be and the schematics of sizing, etc. in front of him, and he's paying attention to it. And then it's laid out, and he's drafting carefully, and there's a lamp lit that implies he's been working for many hours, and beside him are multiple pieces of paper where it looks like he was trying to try different things out, and he's creating... It's interesting because you're like, who is this one for? But there's also ink on the ground, and then there's marked pages of books and a larger ink pot. So it's really showing that he's taking this seriously and that he is working tirelessly and that he's found some passion in this.
There's something so special that he's working unglamorously. He's not working in any way that gets him credit or accolades, and he's putting in just labor. And I think you're right. Nothing adds more than the fact that there's a lantern lit. It adds so much to the scene that he's stayed up late to keep working and found passion and drive and like care. And the fact that it's something so careful and quiet and without glory
Yes.
is
The
beautiful.
quiet that you're talking about, you're right. That is beautiful. When you're watching this, it's clear that he's alone, that it's quiet, that he's there after other people. Yep, literally burning the midnight oil.
Mhm.
And that he has this great look of concentration, not frustration, not anger, but concentration that's giving all of his attention, and that he is finding peace in himself because he's forced to be still and quiet.
It's something that he's just choosing to do. It's not the way he's trying to find ego.
Yeah, it's really important to note that this picture of Bellamy comes with baggage, backstory, and layer that gives it dimension.
Mhm.
The idea that he's never good enough for everyone, that he always needed to be something more for the people that he was involved in, that meant that he had to be loud, the loudest in every room, the toughest in every room, the most intense in every room,
Mhm.
that still it wasn't good enough and that nobody found favor in him, that he never felt like he was going to find his place and he was always looking for somebody who would believe in him. And now we see him fight with Luffy, him admit that he understands that, and then boom, he's sitting alone under a lantern creating a flag. And suddenly you feel like you found some peace because he found some peace.
Mhm.
And a little section of your heart feels healed in watching him find purpose and joy in something that he was doing. And that is, it actually, I hate saying this because I have to admit things to you.
Yeah.
It actually pisses me off that people would ever call this a pirate comic.
Yeah.
You watch a show over multiple episodes and the characters go through not just one curve but many curves, and their dimension isn't just rounded, it's multidimensionally rounded. That's what you do with a manga of this length, is you can afford to layer them in the SBS, in the titles, in the chapter titles, in the cover stories, in the real stories, in the arcs, in the mentioning of them. So the characters have so many layered stories that you're a person who goes by this and all of a sudden you stop moving. I stopped reading. I just sat there staring at this and looked at it and just went, oh, Bellamy, I'm so happy for you, man.
Mm-hmm.
And that's some of the most amazing magic, that in the midst of the hell that we are learning about in WANO, and in the midst of all of these different rich stories, he gave us a quiet moment to feel some happiness in Bellamy finding purpose. And then it looks as if he's trying to create some sort of a straw hat platoon kind of flag so that everybody who is in it has their own thing. So in his off time, it looks almost like his gratitude to Luffy. Because it looks like he's taking this moment to make an armada flag for the Straw Hats. So in his off time, he's learning his craft while paying back a debt to Luffy. That's amazing.
It's beautiful.
I have such deep gratitude that in the you and me story of you getting me to read One Piece, that I finally got to do it before the story was finished. I feel like I'm part of the community that's walking together hand in hand towards the One Piece, and all of us are trying to put puzzle pieces together and figure out a mystery, but at the same time we're holding each other's hands and being like, this is going to get scary as shit, right? And everyone is like, yeah.
Oh man, so one of the big things that almost convinced you before I came up with the idea of doing the show was saying that because you're the person who made me love stories the way I did, that, and this is so dark, but it is how I feel, that like I couldn't imagine feeling anything but sad if you, the person who made me love stories the way I do, were not able to experience this, the best story I've ever known, before you died. And like, that is a real like panicked feeling I had. So I'm so grateful that we're doing this and that you get to be part of this journey, because I stand by. I think this story is only going to work the way it does one time. And like, yeah, it's the reason One Piece turns you into a pusher, is it's so hard to explain how valuable it is, but it is that.
Yeah, it's good for you right away, but it's wonderful for you when every once in a while you stop and you see a panel like the Bellamy panel and you realize, if you just take a second and you just sit in that moment, this is one of the most balanced pieces of fiction ever made. There's no words. Creating balance in something of this size? How?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I realized that I had become like a different level of fan recently again. And I was like, how can you
right?
how can you keep upping your fandom?
That's the magic, isn't it?
We should do a thing in here that if we get to a certain number of subscribers on YouTube, you and I get matching One Piece tattoos.
Hell yeah.
I think that would have a lot of meaning, and I think we could show
absolutely.
it, and I think it would be important. And I think you and I together could come up with something that really had a lot of meaning for us. And then when I'm dead, it'll be something that'll still be with you.
Oh, that is gonna make me cry. So I'm not gonna think about it.
Well, I don't intend on dying for a very, very long time. 100,000. That's our pledge. Oh, there's so many hard things in here. But watching all the people starving, I started to think about the rice riots, all the dirty water. And then, sir, do you have any evil purging herbs? And then one more person is drinking the bad water. And then it switches over to Paradise Farms in what looks like plum blossoms and big, healthy cows standing and grazing, and all the houses with their perfect thatch roofing and the beautiful bridges in between mountain peaks. Have I ever told you that is a thing for me? Bridges in between two high peaks. Ugh, I cannot get enough of it. Okay, you see all this delicious, incredible food. I love the way he puts it. Somebody asked about the environmentalism, and I will say I love this as, oh, there it is, curtain, as the environmental message. Like, we're seeing so much of it, and I was kind of upset about how little environmental message there was, and was talking about how much I wanted to see more environmentalism in here. And then here you go. This absolutely is talking about expansion without morals or reason.
Yeah, I want to point out that means both of the themes that we said we wanted covered in One Piece actually got covered in this saga, because I wanted talking about hypocrisy of liberal violence of the state versus violence of opposition. And that is.
Yeah, and you talked about that.
And I entirely had never put together that Whole Cake Island does that.
Yeah, and so it was kind of amazing because both of us were like, boom, and we finally got the boobs we were looking for, and yeah, that's great. I feel good about
this
that.
This saga delivered, guys.
It's amazing that this horsey chick can go from being like the worst of the worst slave runner, and that's one of the reasons why you don't feel really bad. A fire alarm? Out of the way, folks, coming through. Just put it out already. What's with all this destruction? Like, she's not that great.
Yep.
She's just meh. So when she becomes a slave, you're like, I can morally justify her slavery. But if your philosophy is anti-slavery, then I'm sorry, you can't enjoy slavery just because it came off of the cheek of a delightful child. I love when people are forced to reckon with their own philosophical perspective.
There is also the mix of like,
including me.
This is weird slavery where it seems to make you really happy. And yet then you get into a weird thing of like, hey, if my slavery psionically forces people to have a good time, is it more ethical? And I have to say, unfortunately, the answer is yes, but not all the way. If my slavery is a mimetic infection that forces people to enjoy the slavery, is it better? Slightly.
Do they know what's going to happen? They're not consenting to their brains being changed. It's not like they have the option.
The way that I see it is, as a utilitarian, is it ethically good to enslave speed? No, but because I'm an ethical utilitarian, I can say, hey, if it is in the pursuit of freeing other slaves who, did not once be a slaver themselves, it is an acceptable evil towards a better goal, because I'm not a moral absolutist.
I don't mind that. We'll get into more slavery talk later on when we've run out of 50,000 chapters at a time to read.
Absolutely.
When they come through with the giant thing of food, and then Luffy is like, oh, look at all that food. Luffy could spot food from 15 miles away, so driving it near him was a mad-ass problem. And then Luffy is like, you know what I've decided to do? We're going to have this great big fight. Oh, shit, laws here. Okay, well, we're going to hurt people. I'm not happy about the lion getting hurt. So that, again, tells you a lot about my philosophy, that I'm like, I hate that man. Oh, don't hurt the lion. When all of this is coming out, and it's absolutely, as we were warned with the name of the town, an explosion of chaos and change. And then we take our lion dog, pull him up, and are like, time to steal some food, and run off. You're just like, this is everything we want. But something is missing. What is the thing that's missing? Well, first of all, it is Red Hawk, because anytime Luffy is going to punch somebody in the face with Red Hawk, and we're going to get to see that fist action of their face boiling in. Rubber, Red Hawk. God dang. With the fire, he looked just like Fire Fist Ace. Just like Fire Fist Ace.
Whoa. A guy throws a fist made of fire and you're, a dumb bit. Anyways.
Moving on. To do that in front of our poor little girl who is absolutely devastated about Ace's death, But on the other hand, now we know that when Luffy comes out with the fact that he is Ace's brother, it's going to make a lot more sense to her. Like, even though they aren't related in blood, that they are related. This, I think, will help with that crossover for her. But it also started to make me think about how they were making sure we knew with the Red Hawk and the Fire Fist that Luffy, whether he's saying it out loud or not, or whether it is a proclamation, it is a truth that he is filling a promise for Ace.
Yeah.
And so he said that he is going to leave this place so that nobody has to worry about where their food comes from. And then this punch lets us know, it's connecting us, that we know that Luffy is filling the promises that Ace was not able to fill.
You had to read Fishman Island very quickly because of our schedule, so you didn't pick up on it. But when he used Red Hawk for the first time, he even gave a proclamation about how that represented him carrying Ace's will. So I absolutely think Red Hawk is used here on purpose to highlight, yeah, me getting you food, Tama, me freeing this country, I am acting on Ace's will. I think it's also entirely why he's ready to act so impulsive, because he's like, this isn't a strategy anymore for me. This isn't, oh, I'm taking down one of the emperors. This is me saving people who my people promised he would save and who I care about.
Which is very important because Luffy doesn't act as strong, or he doesn't have the same gusto when he's just doing something because he's like, well, I got to take down this emperor. Mm-hmm. Oh, but now you made it personal. My brother came here. You've been hurting the people my brother promised to save. You just hurt my friend, tried to rip her face off. Oh, no. Now it's different.
And Tama, I think giving Luffy food means more than anyone else who has, because she was starving on her birthday and gave him the last of her food. Like, I think you could not do something more to get Luffy on your side. Holy shit.
Exactly. And then we go into this little part where she even says, you were just like Ace. And it shows Ace smiling in the foreground with a fire hand and Luffy jumping up with Red Hawk. Did you say? Nothing. I didn't say nothing at all. And she hugs him. Oh.
I think there's something interesting. People often talk about how each of the Straw Hats has something in common with Luffy. And they talk about how, well, Sanji's was supposed to be they're both big dreamers. And now we don't talk about the All Blue, so it's lost. But I think people don't realize, like, how much both Sanji and Luffy have a philosophy of people deserve to eat. That is so essential to both of their ethics. That is something they believe in so strongly. Like, I genuinely think, why does Luffy not hate Big Mom as much as other villains? Straight up, I think it's because she does feed her people. Like, he doesn't like her. He picks a fight with her, but there's not this hatred.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that. Luffy gets very, very hungry. Yep. Luffy is somebody who goes through his own hunger pangs. He turned into, basically, he looked like an old injured man or a zombie when he was hanging out over in Big Mom's territory. So Luffy really does suffer when he's hungry. Plus, he lived in an effing garbage dump.
Yep.
Had to scrounge for his food. He understands a lot more than most people what it feels like to be hungry. So I think you're right. Him and Sanji really do have a brotherhood in that need for people to be fed. Mm-hmm. It's meaningful.
Like the starving man from Yuba Village, Tama starving and him declaring that she'll have enough to eat, him bringing all the food for the entire village when he finds out what's happening. People having enough to eat is huge. And I think people don't think about how essential that is because they think about it from the modern lens of like having enough food is a given. But like historically, famines were the number one sign of a bad leader. Like that is such a failure. All right. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hi there, YouTube. This is Mama Drock. You've been listening to me ramble on. You've been hearing this other person named Drock. Drock, say hi.
Hi.
We're all hanging out here, shaking it down. If you like the way that we've shaken this down for you, why don't you subscribe? Subscribing is a thing that will always feel good and never feel bad. Also, you should like it. Why? Because you like it, unless you don't like it. Here's another idea. Why don't you make a comment? Make that comment be like, y'all, this was nice.
Hey guys, if you're having a good time, please drop us a y'all. This was nice.
Squishies, I see you. I know you. I appreciate you. If we get to 100,000 subscribers, Drock and I have decided that we're going to get matching One Piece tattoos. I will have to admit, I think it's my favorite narrative I've ever read. If you are a Patreon, we appreciate your Patreons. They are the people who feed the editors.
They do.
And let us keep these out. And Patreons are going to be putting in the suggestions for things they would like us to have as tattoos. At 50,000, Drock is going to turn fully into Marco the Pineapple.
That's true.
If you want to send us a letter or anything else, we have a P.O. box. It's going to go up on the screen right here. I love letters. Letters are like Christmas. Send us your letters or postcard from your town. If you live somewhere cool, you can brag. And now back to our short one. Hey, y'all.
Hey, y'all.
This has been real nice. Ciao.
Hell yeah, dude. Surf's up my dude 100%.
What's that freaky straw man's name again?
You liked him, is Basil Hawkins.
I know who it is. Kind of mad at him. Why is he here? Like, I know on one hand that he has to be because I see what's happening, but Basil, I stuck up for you. I put you in my top list of shitty generation. And here I find you. When I do all this and invite you into my home, I find you with my enemy. If I can forgive that, man. Like, I just don't know. Welcome to WANO.
Welcome to WANO.
When Luffy drags the food through the town, we see a panel. I don't know if I've ever talked about it before, but I think it deserves a mention. There's a baby in its mother's arms. She's crying. She's about to stab it. And then when we go into the people eating and he brings them clean water and everybody is eating and da-da-da-da-da. And it's this lovely moment. And it's so great.
Everything's good. It's happy. We did it. WANO saved.
Then he says this thing. Don't celebrate like this is special, Tama. We'll make it so this is normal. Big bro, by the time we leave this country, it'll be a place where you can eat as much as you want every single day. Oh.
That's our boy.
That's another one I kind of wanted you to draw. I just wanted to see Luffy with those words because I'm just so proud of you, Luffy Luferson, because it is exactly, then it flashes back to Ace. The next time we come back to this country, it'll be a place where you can eat as much as you want. He, without even knowing it, his heart and Ace's heart, same deliciousness and absolutely same message. And can you even imagine what that did to her? No, I'm happy, of course. I'm just startled is all she says. Like, okay, we got to get into something here. Oh, and also, I love me some napping Kiyashiro.
Kirishiro? Who's that?
The dude who's wearing the brightest clothes in all of the history with hair that looks just like Frankie's almost.
Oh, yeah, Pompadour Man. I forgot his name. Look, I gotta be honest, I'm not that good at remembering the Japanese names. That's the hardest part of WANO for me.
I don't blame you. It's hard. You don't hear them every day. God damn, he's cool. And he can tell a ghost story. So he's telling the ghost story. They're there watching things take place. Robin is doing her little dancey dance. She's overhearing all the things. And I'm like, okay, I really got to get into this ghost story and learn. How was I to know that I would not need to sit there wondering for very long? Foxfire. Oh, Foxfire. That's why you're called Foxfire. Hey, Foxfire. See how joyfully intelligent I am?
I mean, Foxfire is also just like a common combination.
You've ruined my moment.
Okay.
Dun, 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 ding.
Is that just for figuring things out now?
Yeah, I have a smart brain. I'm the smarticoliest smarticoler. I love when our girl sees her master and gives him a great big hug and is just like, I'm so happy. But I didn't know that Kinemon was 9 feet tall.
Kinemon's a big lad.
Because when they see each other, they're the same height.
Yep.
I was a little bit surprised by that.
You know what we haven't talked about at all today?
What?
The time travel.
That's what I'm getting to.
Okay.
That's why I said,
Yeah.
Little did I know that we would get to this place and they'd be like, this place is filthy. I'm sorry to admit that this ruin is our base of operations. I'm really glad you made it here. First things first, in addition to this, there's this and this. And then he goes, 5 of us. And then he says, I must admit, one other secret I have kept from you. Just a minor thing.
He's got one little thing maybe y'all should know about.
Almost not worth mentioning if I'm going to be honest.
You know what? Are you sure? Do you want to know everything? Do I have? Okay, fine. I guess I'll tell you.
Maybe I should keep this one back.
This one's maybe
but
insignificant.
wait, what is with you guys and all the secrets? Just tell us already. Okay, just the one thing, please forgive us. It's difficult to believe.
This is normal.
5 of us in total. We 3 sitting here, and Conjuro and Lezo, whom you know well, are in fact people who belong to the past. Pardon me. As a matter of fact, we crossed through time to arrive here from Wano 20 years ago. And then I just paused and was like, what the shit? That's a mighty big revelation to just suddenly spit out here, my boy.
We just did a little time travel as a treat. Is that so weird and wrong and bad?
Is he pronounced Rizo?
It's Rizo for sure.
But we don't pronounce ours.
There's lots of names that get translated with an R. The big thing is there's not a distinction between R and L in Japanese, but what they're supposed to get romanized as does change character to character because Oda does engage with a lot of Western media, so he does have like specific opinions on which word they're they're supposed to get changed.
Okay, here's an interesting idea. I love that Oda makes the decision to only time travel forward. Yeah, because otherwise, every single time anyone does time travel, you're like, don't change anything or the.
Oh yeah, like great. You can suddenly make everything in the story irrelevant because of this one power. Great.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, wow. This is fun. Let's not talk anymore. We're going to F every single effing thing up. But by only allowing them to travel in a forward direction, now we don't have to worry about any of that shit. That's brilliant.
Solves the problem.
Yeah, he wrapped it up in a bow and was like, here you go. And I was like, oh. So I love that they only traveled forward, but on the other hand, I'm kind of pissed at him.
Yeah?
Hear me out.
I'm hearing you out.
Your dad.
Well, I'm aware of that guy.
And you know that your dad and I are quite close.
I've assumed. I haven't checked in.
Okay, well, we are. I like him. He likes me. We're good friends.
Yeah.
So he decides he's going to travel forward in time. He doesn't tell me because he needs to save all of Canada. Now, if he can actually save our country and keep everyone safe, would it be great of me to be like, I have an idea, don't go? Probably not. But he doesn't say goodbye.
Can we, this isn't a huge spoiler, add in, literally could not have a chance to say goodbye.
Yeah, I imagine. But then you come forward, you find out your wife is still alive and here.
Yeah.
She didn't die. You come forward, your dad goes to the place that I've been for 20 years by myself, eking out a meager life. And he sees me and says, now is not the time to say hello.
Yeah.
I would not be able to forgive that.
Uh-huh.
So moving forward in time, I can forgive. You didn't have a choice. You just moved. You did the best you could in the moment. You protected Momo. It is a crazy time. I get it. I'm not happy, but I get it. Seeing me 20 years in the future and not taking a moment to say, I might not make it through this. You're going to have to pretend you've not seen me, but I'm sorry. This is what's happened. I had to see you and tell you that this will be the greatest moment that has happened in my life. And I love you.
Yeah.
That shit has to happen.
Now, can I counterpoint?
Go ahead.
What if your husband knew he were a fictional character and that the emotional catharsis would mean more if he waited?
Oh my God. You're such a doofus. I do agree that in a writing way, maybe it could, but he can give us something else for catharsis. And if she has to lose him twice, at least if you've ever lost anyone in your life, getting to see them again, even for 10 minutes, would be so meaningful there isn't words.
You raised some points.
So I think he should have given that to her. And I think that catharsis, he could have woven her joy and worry through it and built anticipation and fear.
Okay.
That's just my thinking on that. Moving on. Our Lord Odin was rather a boisterous fellow, as a matter of fact, and despite being the son of Kozukiyaki, the shogun of Wano. Meanwhile, at the time, there was a place in Wano known for being a lawless area. And so he describes this entire area and how Odin went in and fought for it and banded people together. Felt a little Roman, if I'm going to be honest to you, but whatever. They dug out a river, they built a dock, they connected it to the other towns and the people, and then Lord Odin loved to say it's too cramped. I'm not going to lie, Zoro doing a wandering minstrel eye, traveling around the country trying to figure out where the shit people have gone to is awesome. It feels a lot more like what we're used to with our La Crap restaurant boy. This is a little strange for Zoro.
Except without any of the ability to do it successfully because he has no idea where he is at any time.
Yeah, no, he doesn't nearly have the Sanji like direction or clever ideas. He's just a wanderer. What?
Since we brought up Sanji and Zoro here, can I tell you a fan theory that I have come up with? This is my personal custom fan theory, just as custom as me saying Luffy has life return as a power, right? You know how we meet people like Mary who has goat horns?
Yes.
So it's a popular fan theory that the people with some animal aspects just have a mink somewhere deep in their ancestry, right?
Yeah.
And there's a popular theory that all the really tall people who are like 9 feet tall or whatever have distant ancestry that's part giant. Make sense so far?
Yeah.
My theory is look at the sheer density of people with brightly colored hair in Wano. I think weird colored hair as a natural thing in One Piece is a gene that comes from Wano, and that all of the people you see with brightly colored hair have someone from Wano in their ancestry.
Oh, I love that theory. I like that we meet up with Duke Dogstrom because I was like, I thought some of the minks were coming. Where the shit did they go? So I was like, oh, thank God they're freaking here, because I was a little concerned that our plans were not going to go as well until I saw him there. And it was a good reminder for us that for all of them, it has only been months since the death of Odin.
Yeah, and the last time they were in Wano, it wasn't nearly this Stop.
And then they come back and suddenly it's this. That's really hard. It makes me feel a lot more empathy for Momo.
Knowing that his dad died like a couple months ago, and knowing that his dad died like a week ago when you first met him.
Yeah, because he sucked then. But then I'm like, oh, his dad had just died and then he got on a boat so he could save children. Fine.
It does make him a more empathizable with character, for sure.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot about this part.
What's the part?
Oh, I need to go backwards. So Lady Toki, Kozuki Toki, it was difficult for me to believe, but a rumor had that Lady Toki had not been born in our era but long ago. Mankind cannot return to the past, but it can leap into the future. I have used this strange time ability to travel further and further into the future, until at last I arrived here at my final destination. To Lord Odin, yes, and so I will stay here. We wouldn't dare to stop you. But if we truly leapt into the future, we would find a way to finish Lord Odin's wish and strike down Orochi and Kaido, that this country could open at last. Crushing, and then more crushing. And it's interesting to see that the world was so much more beautiful and that this isn't the land that they knew. And a great reminder to us all. I also love that it's a moon with the little thing as a tattoo on their ankle that lets them know that they are willing to join in the fight after 20 years and that they have people who are still on their side. What a cute little thing. I'm loving that for us. But I wanted to move forward. Our deal number is 5,000 strong. However, we do not wish for war.
What's your plan for dealing with the giant dragon who loves war? What's your thinking here?
I super love the two birds on fire over the Viper with the crescent, because when I looked it up and you found out that all the different times of day had a different animal symbol and the two birds was this time and what the Viper would have meant and this, I thought that was the perfect way to make a point. I loved how elegant it is. It's such an elegant way to, you don't have to say anything, you can't get caught. Somebody else could try to parse it out, but they wouldn't really know. So that was a beautiful way to put it out there. Then we get to find out what's been up with Robin and everyone. And then there's this moment. Okay. And that is when we're like, you know what? We need a garb for Jitsu. Here you go, Nami. It's a face cloth.
Yeah.
It's worse than a face cloth. Like, it barely covers the V. It's all the way down on the B, and then it's fully open on the sides. And Nami is like, is this what all ninjas wear? And they're like, yeah, totally. And then in comes a woman who is a ninja, the veteran Konochi Shinobu, and her outfit is quite different.
Yep.
So I think that was just a lovely thing. You love the Chief Head Mountain Thieves Brigade.
Granted, I know more about them. When we get there, I'll go into why, and I'm very excited to get to the point that I can talk about it.
I do love that we meet him. He hangs out for 2 seconds, talk to Jack, the Beast Pirates head leader, does a flip over his head and slices from one end to the other across his chest. I was like,
we know Jack is a big enough deal that he can fight people to a standstill, and this guy with a surprise attack can just deal major damage to him.
That was wild. And then he says to Jack, and I quote, which when you remember all the things that Jack has had happen to him or has done, and the strength that we've seen for him, he goes, I won't be killed by a mere underling like you. I already lost my chance for a meaningful death. And you're like, what?
Jack is an interesting character because people like get Worfed. He exists to Worf for sure, where he just gets his ass kicked. He's lost every fight, but to be fair, he keeps going up against opponents that are so much higher than he should have to. Like, he had to fight both of the leaders of Zhao. He fought Zhao itself. Now he fought this dude who we find out at the end of this is another one of the Red Scabbards. So another one of Odin's vassals. And the first time we're introduced to him, he's being sent to go fight a former fleet admiral, an admiral, and 2 vice admirals at the same time. This man keeps picking the wrong fights.
Yeah, he's picking fights with some very, very strong people. And that's when we flip over the page and Law's like, I think you guys should come outside. There's something you might want to see. It's minor. Don't worry about it. Like, take your time. I don't want to interrupt.
Oh, what is it, Law? Is it like a cool bird?
Yeah, it's in the sky. That, you know what? Yeah. But it's this. And then the entire page is taken up. Bring those children to me at once. And we get the dragon of my dreams with Luffy's goddamn X on his chest. The dragon is wearing bracelets, which come the shit on. Have you ever seen a dragon with a tattoo and bracelets?
And a feather jacket.
Wild shit. This is a fully different dragon. Look at this dragon. He's everything I wanted him to be. I think Kaido is going to be my very, very favorite bad guy.
He is my favorite bad guy. When we've been talking about who my favorite bad guy is, it's Kaido. This is who I've been working up to. A lot of people don't like this man. I truly don't understand it. People find him underwhelming as a villain, and I don't get it. I
Shut the front door.
love Kaido. I love everything about him
This
as a villain.
man flew in, and his very first words out of his dragon ass face is, "Bring those children to me at once."
Now let me tell you something.
On.
Is he my favorite villain? Yes. He's just not my favorite antagonist because I think Katakuri is an antagonist, but not a villain.
Yeah, I would agree. And he shows up drunk off his ass. Oh, I love this dragon. I look forward to Luffy and Kid becoming friends. I think I'm going to end up liking Kid.
I'm excited to see if you do.
I love this, and I just wanted to mention it because I forgot. Oda wrote 48 browns and 100 grays. This is my figurative saying that indicates that there are a multitude of shades of brown and gray in Japan. In the olden days, the common people were instructed not to wear flashy colors, and so they developed a wealth of plain colors to use instead. I bet they wish they could have worn all kinds of rainbow hues, though. Well, the WANO arc is going to be wild and flashy, and I can't wait to see that animated.
And holy shit, the animators deliver on some scenes. Unfortunately, a lot of the best animation isn't in Act 1 because they were saving budget and time for later on. But Act 2, I'm going to start sending you some crazy clips.
I'm so excited about that. I also love Koala teaching the Kung Fu Dugongs the ways of the Fishman Karate.
It's just cute.
Look at them. Look, little koala vests with their little hoods. I want to hug them all, kiss their little faces and squishes them. They're so cute. Can't handle it. I have to move away.
We're gonna talk about that Bagua.
On. And then what happens when the dragon goes over the top? Poor little Momo turns into his Lord Momonosuke turns into his little pink dragon. I really hope, because we don't know, like, are we going to do another time skip? Is there anything going to happen in the future? I do kind of hope for a time skip now, because things like Momo, I would love to see Momo come into his full dragonhood.
Do we want to make that a prediction or a hope?
It is a hope, but I don't care. I'll make it a prediction.
Adult dragon, Momo, at some point.
This is a hope because I'm not in charge of what he does with rendering. I'm hoping that he gets, because if you look at his horns and how they're a yellowish color, I'm hoping that his offsetting color is going to be gold, and he's going to be a pink and gold dragon. Oh, that'd be so. Because on our big blue dragon, he has silver and bronzy gold. And so, I don't know, did he come that way? What would a little guy look like? So I'm very much hoping that we get to see that. So one of the guys decides to retreat, and because he's smart, retreat to the forest and head to the mountains. Thieves Brigade, there's no reason to mess with him. I heard that there was a mighty brigand deep in the forest Takura, Shutamaru. And then he says, in fact, I remember you. And then he remembers the fight. And then he goes, the past is the past. If you agree to work for me, then this is all under the bridge. Kaido, are you drunk? You fool! I am not drunk. He's drunk.
I love how if Kaido can get someone to work for him, there's no grudge. He's like, look, if you're willing to join the crew, who cares, bud?
Yes, I loved it. He wiped out that whole place. We know that the Straw Hats are okay, that we're up on the mountain over by Odin Castle. But for the rest, the chapters, we know that Luffy doesn't. He watches with Law as they run off. The whole top of that castle go out. Luffy attacks him with his giant elephant gun, which actually was really impressive. And that's a great picture. Tiny Luffy, giant black ass haki hand, and then the dragon's snoot bending in half as his brow ridge goes down. That was a great picture.
I love how, like, out of nowhere, Luffy's up there kicking ass.
And you're just like, holy man. And he gives us that twice, because he gives it to us, that picture in the air, and then he gives it to us again in the next panel when he smashes into the town. And that was delight. But everyone's like, oh shit, run.
Yeah, no one's gonna want to be here real soon, actually.
And Luffy is like helping out people, going to the horse person. She said, I couldn't protect the master. And now Luffy doesn't know if his little friend is okay, and everything. I should have stayed at her side. So according to what's going on in Luffy's head, they did that thing they love to do to Luffy, that when Oda's like, hey, what if we took away everything that Luffy loves and cherishes, or give him all the guilt triggers and then lean him into the bad guy. That's a thing that we do sometimes here. And by that, I mean constantly. And even though he is facing a goddamn 3-kilometer long, is it 3 kilometers?
Yeah, about 3 kilometers.
So even though he's facing him, he still says, I am the man who will be the Pirate King. Full rotation, and you're like, there's no way dude is going to be alive at the end of this. And no, rubber, elephant, Gatling. How the hell did he stand up to full dragon forced fire and come out with his clothes on? I think he should have been naked Luffy. Naked Luffy.
Oda has explained before that in general, devil fruits affect clothing, so that he doesn't have to draw a bunch of naked people from a bunch of the powers that would shred your clothing apart. So I like to think that rubber's harder to burn than cloth is why that happens.
And then you've got him go backwards and land on the ground and actually get punched out for a second and turn back into his Kaido-ness. I'm going to say that as a first fight, not bad. And that is going to have a major impact on his haki.
Going up against stronger opponents.
Got to do it.
There's also the issue here, though, of we just found out, like we just got instructed that your haki gets weaker when your emotions are in turmoil. And I don't know if Luffy realizes that maybe he's not in his best mental state after thinking all of his crew blew up.
No, he thinks his crew is dead. He thinks his little friend is dead. And then he goes fight. And that wasn't a great choice. Thunder Bagua. Boom. What was that, boy?
Not since Magellan have we seen Luffy get one shot.
But you know what was so good about the one shot, even though we know his, I forgot about the sea stone nails. That has implications, eh? Yep. Sea stone nails? Yep. It's a lot of shit that can be done with that. Are they going to wrap or have some sort of gun that shoots sea stone nails into our dude? His X, when he becomes a man, is off to the side under his boobie. That's interesting. Instead of in the center of his chest. Now, that's a very interesting thing. I want to think about what that means. What do you think it means?
What's the symbolic difference between a centered X and an X that's off center? Is he just off the mark for being the thing Luffy is? Because, okay, think about it. We've talked in the past about how Luffy being the X means he's the solution to the world's worries.
And so it feels like Kaido is nearly the solution, but he isn't.
Which makes sense because he wants to disrupt the world. He wants the biggest war the world's ever seen. That's a thing you've seen him say. He's almost what the world needs, but not quite.
Oda accidentally didn't put the X on him a couple of times when he's standing further back. But I love that he comes up and he says to him, I don't know whether it's an indomitable spirit or his empty bluff, but he's been glaring at me this entire time. And Luffy is out cold and they're like, what are you talking about? He's just plain knocked out. And then you look at it from Kaido's expression and sure enough, even though he is out cold, he has managed to pull off a absolutely fantastic glare. That kid Brat also has the color of the Supreme King. Color is coming in.
You say what you will.
Color is coming in.
All right.
But we don't need all these Supreme Kings running around. I'll deal with Trafalgar later. Now it's time to drink again. I've sobered it up. Blast it. He comes around the corner. Atsura is still beautiful 20 years later. That's your focus? What she looks like? Shut the front door.
Man, look, what's he going to do? Get personality from like the sea in her? I don't know.
No, Atsura, still here after 20 years. My heart. Time has not changed you, but we cannot be reunited until Lord Odin's wishes have been accomplished at last. You know what? Go kiss your wife. Don't be a jerk. I love that they fell into the building. I'm hoping they find out some information because they were saying that hiding into the sinkhole helped them to survive, but they're worried that they're going to sink into the ocean. I love that they're in that place because there's no way that it doesn't hold secrets. I love me some secrets. When they get them all out, I'm like, oh, now can we find my other people? The fact that when Lufthario's greatest scuffle in Curry, extra, the news made it all through Wano. And then they're like, oh, hey, Luffy, he made it into, what? And it shows Frankie looking ugly. Oh my God. Then it shows Robin looking about as ugly as a person could look with Robin's face. And honestly, Usopp doesn't really look that different.
No.
Well, because he has a beard. You can't even see the whole thing. Robin's face looking like that showed that the news was so shocking that it would even take over Robin's beauty.
Yeah. Well, I also just think it's a good artist thing, a good writing thing to be like, it's not going to have the same impact if I hold back and don't let the pretty one also look freaked out.
I agree. But by stacking them this way, because he didn't need to, but he took full advantage of the right to left paneling, stacked them beautifully. And there's something about them all being on the left side this way. I can't even describe it. Really tells us how deeply concerning it is. Watching an animated was a treat. Oh, I'd like to see that.
I'm gonna be honest, most people disagree with me. I think it is literally the exact same, animated or not. This one in particular. I think they just did a perfectly passable adaptation of it. There will be detractors to my sentiment, but I stand by it.
I hope Luffy and whatever able to spit those fish bones out from the prison and puncture it through that dude's neck become friends. But there is no better frickin' Luffy panel than the one where he is shaking in rage. His hat is around the back of him. His whole face is wrapped in a bandage, except for those frickin' fierce eyes. That's quite the look in your eyes, I agree. Can't wait to haze that light right out of them. Boom! The dude spits the entirely strange fish full skeleton into his neck. Oh, yeah, this look of Luffy is amazing. And then Luffy, even though we often think of Luffy as just chaos, in this moment, he takes in that's a potential ally because that's a person who has great strength. Luffy would love him a companion who could spit fish bones out through somebody's neck. That would be his favorite. Seeing when they threw, you know how I felt about Kid. I didn't feel very good about him.
He was the one you felt like you wanted to like, but couldn't bring yourself to actually really care about.
Yeah, I like him now. He's obviously the only other person in the worst generation that was in that area who stood up to Kaido and said, "Fuck you, asshole," and wouldn't break down. And then the panel being Luffy with his freaking fierce eyes and Kid with his, and both of them say at the same time, "I'll get you, Kaido." Yes. Oh, what an opening. This is going to rip my heart out. I know it is. I know it is. It's going to rip my heart out.
Like, I've talked about how setting up so much intimidation is already impressive, but I felt like as one of the biggest things here that's a success is I felt like we went as far as we could on making a fucked up island where things are bad and us feeling bad and scared for the civilians here. Like, I felt like we'd reached the peak of that. I didn't think we'd go further. Can we get much higher? No. Wano's the worst, right?
Oh my God, it's so brutal. So then we see Perona getting so excited that Moria is alive, which is a strange flex. And my main man Mihawk is like, no one cares. She gets all pissed. Now you're nice? You can't just toss out that last comment at the end like that. Thanks for everything. Admittedly, this might be the best time to leave this place. An odd subject has arisen at the Reverie. New World, the pirate island of Folaled. Great name for a pirate island. 10-4, big buddy. Didn't you hear me? We get Gecko Moria, 320 million bounty. I'm going to tell you, Gecko, you may think that's impressive. Shit's changed. I have a new perspective of what's impressive now.
We're in the New World now. You are 1/5 of our boy.
I like that we think that Absalom is alive.
Oh, so guys, Beehive Island, Hachinosu, and Folaled are the same thing. And there's actually an interesting reason it has so many names, which is Hachinosu means beehive literally, so you can say Hachinosu or beehive. However, it's an expression that means to have been shot full of holes, which is why beehive. So because English has an expression for something that's been shot full of bullets as well, Viz usually translates it as Folaled to get the same vibe across instead of the same word across. So I think Folaled is the best translation, IMO, because it gets the vibe that we're going for, which is an expression that means shot full of holes.
Avalopizera, whatever. What I enjoy here is that Moria is like, I need to find Absalom because he was very important to me and he loves him, legitimately loves him. You can tell, like he has deep care for him.
This crew loves each other.
Yeah. So when Perona shows up, he's going to be so excited. But to have instead somebody having been faking being Absalom and it being someone else and us realizing, how does that happen? They killed Absalom.
Dead.
And then you say to yourself, oh my God, did we kill that perverted piece of shit?
Everyone's least favorite character is dead.
Oh, that's amazing. Who could be more happy? I'm a little upset that it's gone to Shiro of the Rain because if we're going to be honest, he's not good.
That is a highly competent swordsman with the mentality of a serial killer who now can turn invisible.
Him being invisible is not going to be the most awesome thing in the entire world, but Absalom is dead, and let's be honest, he is disgusting, and him being dead is magnificent. Crescent Moon Hunter, Katarina Devon, Dog Fruit, mythical type, nine-tailed fox model. I like a fox. I asked for a fox earlier.
Well, you got it. We have a fox fruit.
I don't like her.
You don't like the serial killer who loves killing beautiful women?
No.
Crazy.
So there's some things that make somebody scarier. I remember I was watching a documentary or just an interview, I can't remember, with Stephen King.
Mm-hmm.
And he says there's a lot of ways of things being scary. If somebody is searching around in the dark for a light but can't find it and gets killed, that's scary, but it's not like scary. He said, but if somebody is searching around the wall for the light and something grabs their hand and leads it towards the light, that's scary. And that's how I felt about the Blackbeard moment. Zay, ha 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 ha. You've got Blackbeard not even coming down, not even showing his face, just staying up where he was and laughing out loud and refusing to see Moria in person and just being like, no, I'm gonna threaten and cajole you from here. Do you like partying, Moria? Didn't you read this morning's paper? There's never a dull moment. On just the 4th day of the reverie, the captains of the Revolutionary Army busted into the Holy Land Marijois and rescued Kuma. They clash with Marine Admirals Green Bull and Purple Tiger in the process. Meanwhile, events are transpiring in Wano, where the dreaded Master Kaido dwells. All the young folks with angry blood like the Straw Hats have gathered there, while the mad Empress Big Mom lays chase. What do you suppose happens now? It's already begun. The mighty battle for supremacy over the throne. No quarter given. Zay. Ha ha ha.
I feel like Moria is just standing at the bottom like, I just came to find my boy. Can I leave?
I didn't expect to have to stand here and hear all about this. Now that I found out you killed him and my soul is crushed, I'd like to go, please.
I just want to go home, man.
Okay, let's go into this part. I was the samurai who pushed his life on the line out of devotion to one man, Kozuki Oden. I didn't swear no fealty to the entire Kozuki clan. He fought to a draw with the Duke Dogstorm. Ain't that right, Momo? Rude, first of all, just a little bit rude. And you had better not forget what kind of a man I was. I will gain your loyalty. Weird threat. I will gain your loyalty? Okay. It's like saying to someone, I will make you like me. Okay. And if you can, more power to you. But don't assume that everyone's going to jump for joy at the return of Kozuki Samurai. Y'all, I'll ban in the country for 20 long years, and that absence won't ever vanish. We don't need more deadweight around here. We've got quite enough, Queen. Beast Pirate, lead performer, King, the Wildfire. P.S. If any ever in the history of BDSM, there was an outfit that said, I am the BDSMist. It's this kid here, King the Wildfire. He's the BDSMist of the BDSMers.
So a thing that you will come to realize, there is a rivalry of fans similar to the Zoro Sanji that I've noticed where people hype up these two as bad guys. And I've immediately saw in chat 2 people shouting about Queen, 2 people shouting about King when we got here. And I just want to throw my hat in the ring and say Queen gang for life.
Queen the Plague, Beast Pirate's lead performer. That's right. We don't need more scum when we've already got King. Got that, Jack the Stooge? I'm sorry, brothers. Same to you, Queen. How long does it take to break the spirit of a few stupid brats, you incompetent moron? Shut up, you torture-loving freak. This served. Oda ate it up in this first part of Wano. He ate it up. He left milk crumbs. Hands down, stunning.
It's a very good start to an arc. I'm so happy we're all the way here.
I made a few little predictions about this and that and made some connections. I'm not making big predictions. There's too much going on right now.
Okay, so people are pointing something out, that there are the high-ranking officers who work for Kaido are named King, Queen, Jack, and Joker, and Hold'em is Texas Hold'em. He has a playing card theme. Dofi's agents are all suits. Now, hear me out, right?
But the ace died.
I feel like this is a conversation that happened in the past. Whitebeard's getting a snail phone call. He picks up the phone and is like, who is this? And Kaido's on the other end like, you bitch. Did you just hire a guy named Ace? And Whitebeard's like, yeah, what? Kaido? Yeah. What the have you not recognized the entire thing? Give him a code name. That's what I did with my guys. You think I just found guys named King and Queen? No, you can't have Ace. That's my whole goddamn thing.
Change his name or give me the kid.
That's why Kaido went to Marineford. Oh, people are saying that's amazing. If he was trying to go there not to stir up a war, but like, this is my chance to steal that kid. I got this.
I finished all the chapters. All we need to do now, says I, is pick the people who are worthy and the people who are not the worthy. I don't know if you know what's going on here, kids, but we did some stuff. And I didn't even get into the poem and how all the things that the man said in the poem are like well-known Japanese phrases that mean something when put together. So cool.
So who's our least favorite character? Is it Hold'em? Is it Sumo?
It's the sumo guy. You know what? The Hold'em is not the
Sumo?
worst character. I love the line. The line punches himself. The sumo guy is a grapey loser who wanted to eat my friend's friends, and I'm not into that.
He did try to eat Tony Chopper and steal a woman. Those are two things he did.
I'm not into him.
Urashima, there he is. Urashima's down.
Urashima, the sumo loser.
You know what? I can't. Absalom couldn't be the least favorite character of this arc because he did the only good thing he's ever done. Die.
Who is my favorite character off to the side?
Favorite side character? Favorite little guy? Favorite just little guy?
Okay, well, the problem is that there was just an old woman with a sword at one point standing there against a bunch of people being like, come at me, bitch.
Oh, that's pretty good.
And I loved her.
You can pick her.
Can I? Because I don't know her name. I don't know anything about her. Oh, you know who I'm going to pick?
Who?
Napping Kiyashiro. The money changer.
He hasn't done much. I think that's fair. He's a minor character in this section.
Yeah.
I like how there's no character you can mention who someone doesn't talk about how hot they are.
He's the one who says, you are the moon unaware of the dawn. And it's apparently a common phrase in Japanese poetry that's in haiku that refers to a state of unawareness and ignorance, likening someone to a moon remaining unchanged and unaware of the coming day. And there's a whole thing about it. And then, may your purpose be fulfilled. That apparently is also something that they say. Same with, and cast 9 shadows in the night of woven 20 years, also known.
Huh.
Like, he made this future casting out of well-known pieces from haiku.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know it was all made out of, like, common Japanese poetics.
Yeah, isn't that cool? Okay.
2 drips.
You ain't gonna like it, but my first drip is also napping Kiyoshiro.
Dude, you can do that. Why not? Go for it.
Because he's wearing a goddamn cape, and I don't know if you've heard this.
You're a big fan of the cape as a look. As an
and
aesthetic.
he's also wearing more colors than anyone has worn. If you are lucky enough to read chapter 919 in color, he's good stuff. Capes for life. Second biggest drip is actually hard. Wano is hard in the drip characters.
There's some good designs.
I love Robin's drip. I don't get to see her a lot, but I'm making Robin be my drip.
Okay. Luffy on the tier list of Luffys.
Luffy on a tier list of Toofies is Toofy Sad Luffy. I'm putting him Toofy Luffy Sanufi is Luffy Roofy S.
I don't know how to respond to that, but yeah, S Luffy. And now we must do our top 5 characters of Act 1 of Wano.
Shit on a turkey. My top is Kaido the dragon and just totally bite my butt.
Yeah, no fair.
Tama is number 2. Good thinkies.
Tama, good job. I'm proud of you, Tama.
I am gonna put no. o-kiku is number 5.
Hell yeah. Go girl.
Number 3 is Bellamy and number 4 is Zoro.
Yeah, I mean, look, he's a cover story, but you know what? It's a touching cover story, so I'll let you. Go for it.
It just pulled so many things together for me.
Anime only people right now are like, what? Bellamy wins number 3 best character in Wano?
Losing their goddamn mind right now. You know what, though? I'm going to put Zoro in 3 and Bellamy in 4. Sorry, Bellamy. You're still there, Bell. But I have to admit that Zoro deserved to be moved up higher.
Fair enough.
I love me some Zoro this time. When he gave those words off and was like, don't pretend you need my help. Goddamn, man. So hot. Did we do the thing?
I think we say goodbye now. I think that's what we do.
All right.
I'm excited for the next one to continue this mural. I think it's going to be very fun. Thank you guys for being here. You guys are amazing.
You're better than amazing. You're squishy.
Aww.
Hey, Patreons?
Yeah.
You count as our heroes. You let us feed the editors. You believe in us and like what's being done enough that you support it, and I really appreciate it. And for all of you who can't, know that you are loved and respected. Thank you for doing all the things you do. Thank you for liking this. Thank you for being part of our community. I cannot tell you how much we appreciate it. You are squishy squishersons, and I'm so honored and proud to be a part of this.
We're going to be reading Act 2 plus the interlude next, which goes up to chapter 958. It's 33 chapters. Everybody,
okay.
We love you being here. This is so much fun. I had a great time. Guys, part 5 of Wano. We're doing all of this for part 5. You know why you're all hyped for part 5. We're ecstatic for part 5 of Wano. Until next time, it's been lovely talking to you.
Squish on, squishies.
Bye, everybody.
don't want to interrupt your broadcast.
Yeah.
But you are.
But
What's
sometimes
happening?
you hear things off to the side.
Yeah.
Did you actually get your fucking dragon?
I got a dragon. I got my dragon.
Oh, he hadn't heard. You didn't tell him that you got your dragon.
I'll take the first dragon.
Come see it. Come see it, Papa Drock. That's my dragon.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That's it.
This is how you know how much the dragon's meant to her, that he knew it was a big deal that she got her dragon.